This conference will now be recorded.
So we'll call to order Monterey Select Board, October 12th at 6 PM. And Justin Maycock, I'm present here in Town Hall,
Susan Cooper, President, Town Hall.
and Scott is not joining us this evening. But we do have Lori MacArthur here, thanks for joining us. Welcome the new Select Board Secretary, first meeting. And we will get right into the agenda. So Adam Chait is here on behalf of Fiber Connect, thanks for joining us. We're just here to get an update on how the build out is going. It sounds like there's promising developments on Beartown Mountain Road. Is there anything you'd like to share?
Well, they've been doing work, so Asplund is one of the subcontractors for National Grid, and they've been out on Beartown, Harmon, Mount Hunger, New Marlboro, Wellman, Gould, Brett, Swan. And so they're wrapping up whatever make ready is needed there.
Are they actually putting up poles or just cutting trees? I thought they were a tree company.
Both, so in this town, National Grid is the pole setter, so Asplund would be doing any of the pole sets for them.
Okay,
Once that's done, hopefully Verizon will get out here pretty quick and get their part done. And once both pole owners are finished, then we can start doing some work. We were out today doing some preliminary measurements and checking things. We're starting to reach out to some of the anyone who has underground service. We've been reaching out to them to try to get some fiber into conduits and get new conduits installed before the frost hits. Right now, our best guess is somewhere in January, February timeframe, we'll start to light areas up. And
underground or the overground?
Well, just the service in general.
Okay,
So anyone who's got conduits, we could get frozen out. So we're trying to beat the frost on some of that stuff.
So after the roads that you've mentioned, what will be remaining, if anything, where you still need to go?
Just what the agreement says, the lower part of Corsair, lower part of River Road.
But so those were the excluded homes from the contract, but basically what you're saying is after, this finishes everything? Okay. Good. And you think basically by January or February, weather permitting, you'll have completed?
Well, we'll be in construction, whether it'll be 100% complete by then, I don't know. To be completely honest, Verizon tends to be the big unknown. They don't communicate well with us. They're the only way we had to really check up on their status is through a portal page, and they don't update it very well. We've seen that go from 0 to 100 overnight because they did all this work and they didn't update it along the way, and then all of a sudden they finished the paperwork and there it is. On larger projects, we tend to see the progression on the portal. So I don't know. They typically will come in after National Grid. So as soon as National Grid's done, they issue tickets to it's a central database we're all part of, and Verizon will see that they're next to go. We push and prod. We want to get it done. So hopefully it'll be soon. As soon as it's ready, we'll get out there.
Would it be fair to say that all of the make rates have been approved by Verizon National Grid, and it's just at this point that?
Yeah, it's all been paid.
Yeah.
We have to pay for it before they do any of the work, so it's all been paid, all the work is authorized to get done.
Yeah.
So we're just.
So it's like the final push, kind of?
Yeah, I mean, it's just sit and wait, so there's the licenses come in from the pole owners, and we can go out and actually do it. And we have it split up, it's broken into multiple applications, so some applications may get finished before others. As soon as they are, we'll start working.
I don't have any other questions, but I'm psyched to hear that it's even moving along at all, so.
It's always moving, it's just doesn't appear that way with
Visible,
a lot
right.
of the background stuff.
I got some excited emails today that people saw poles out there and that there was
Yeah.
action, so.
I know my guys ran into Asplund out there, so They're supposed to be done this week, from what I hear from National Grid. If that's the case, then hopefully, because Verizon will get out here soon. But we'll, like I said, we're starting to run down the road for measuring, or putting in some hardware where we can hit our assigned heights, and we're starting to get some of that work done. Once we can get on every pole, then we'll start streaming.
Did you ever get fiber? Because I know there was a big problem with the order.
We should be okay. I know there's some sizes of distribution we're still waiting on, but we have other stuff. I hate to use the bigger stuff on something like Beartown, but I think we have enough material that we can get going.
That's good to hear.
Yeah,
You
supply
seem
chain has
worried about
definitely
it,
been an issue.
One other question that's come up, so I know that the contract required the low income discounted rate, which you've done. Something else that came up, and I just curious if you've considered it, because I don't, it's my understanding it's not required by the contract, but it's been mentioned to us, what if someone comes up for a couple months in the summer and then they don't use?
The dormancy rates? Yeah, we
Yeah.
don't offer a dormancy. That's, there's several issues with this, and I've been, on previous select boards, we've been through this issue before.
Mhm.
I mean, for one, you've got 70% second home population here.
Yeah.
That's a tremendous revenue hit. 6 months out of the year, revenue drops. We want to be able to stay in business, so.
Yeah.
We need, the other big thing is people don't realize that they become reliant on the internet for their Ring cameras, their alarm systems, their water bugs. All the stuff, you know, the water sensors and stuff,
Oh,
so
okay.
pipe bursts in the middle of the winter.
Right.
So, you know, we've seen in cases where people shut down, they shut off all their power, and then we've gotten calls in the past where, you know, my water bug didn't go off, and they had a flood, and no one was notified, the caretakers weren't notified, whatever, so. People don't realize they become dependent on their connectivity, and it's just a headache, it's not worth it either.
Alright, well, thank you for the update. Is there anyone else on that call that has any questions for Adam while he's here? Alright, thanks for joining us, and good news. Thank you.
Thanks
Hope
for your
they'll be
time.
back soon for the last mile, so.
Yes, that would be awesome.
Thank you.
You'll be happy to know that you'll be getting service to the folks out of Beartown before the phone will. Yeah. Yay.
Okay, Susan,
Yes.
before we go into old business,
Yes.
we have a question about minutes. So 8 and 11 are about approving 2 sets of open meeting minutes, which is kind of a moot point, because I am not prepared for that.
Okay.
But 11 is
What?
executive session minutes,
Okay.
and Scott is not here.
Here, right, so we wanna table those till next week?
Well, that's my question for you, is do you want to? I am ready, I've made my edits,
I
the
think I
9:21
made mine too,
the 9:21 we can do next week without any problems, that would be the 19th. That would kind of be the day that we'd have to
we'd have to.
do them by.
Right.
If it's, I'll leave it up to you, whether you want to, because basically if you want to, then Melissa will go and print out the minutes, but otherwise we will save the paper and just plan on doing it next week.
Let's just do it next week.
Okay. Alright, so we won't,
Because if we, if we're gonna have to come back for the 9:28 and have another executive session, we might as well just do them at one go.
yes, yeah, sure. Alright, so we won't do those minutes tonight, and I'm not ready on the open for 9:28 and 10:06.
Okay.
So we won't do any minutes tonight, but that's
Okay.
fine. Okay, old business, we have the draft policy with anti-discrimination and harassment. So I met with Sophia today.
Do we have a new?
We don't. More or less, I think we're all in general agreement that we're going to, and I guess I'm the one who's going to make the edit after my conversation with Sophia today, but she wants to then review it next Wednesday. Hopefully we can then bring to the board, and then
Probably,
meeting,
right.
unless we wanna have Donna
With
review
the
it.
meeting next week, or, I definitely think that Donna should look at it, the only question is whether we wanna tinker with it and then have Donna look at it and then review it, or we want her to just do that, like what order?
Yeah.
Because there's no way we should do this without Donna say
Yeah.
so, right?
So, and here, the general consensus from last meeting was, I'm going to shorten it up. And mostly, the only discussion is about the complaint process, right?
Right,
And we're going to funnel all complaints to the HR director, so if a select board member, yeah, I think it will say if a select board member is notified to notify the
Yeah.
HR director.
Right.
But we'll funnel everything to the HR director, at which point the HR director will review, investigate. If it's significant, they will notify the board. If the HR director is recommending action like termination, of course she has to notify the board and make a recommendation with a written recommendation saying as much. The major change being from the way that it was drafted, that in a minor event, the HR director
just handles it.
may just handle it and take any corrective action. I still think that that should be reported to the select board, not to go against any confidentiality, of course, but
Just keep us in the loop.
keep us in the loop, because I said, if there's a department head or an employee that, all of a sudden termination's being recommended because this has been an ongoing problem, and we're just learning of it at that point,
So,
that's awkward. And also because it's just an important, it's important that we stay up on things that could open the town to liability without getting too involved in the process, but just being notified.
and it wouldn't, we could be notified without it having to be on a meeting agenda.
Yeah, so that's the thing, is we couldn't
As long as
deliberate
We
it.
couldn't deliberate about it, but it doesn't, but notified isn't deliberate.
Yeah, so that was the point that I was making to Sophia, and I think I kind of have her on board, is that in a minor instance, if there's nothing for the select board to do, but she'll just notify the select board, and unless the select board wants to discuss it,
It doesn't even.
yeah, we would just be notified.
Okay.
If there's no action for us to take, et cetera. So anyway, I'm working on that. We'll have to do it next week.
That's fine, and thanks for working on it, it's a not insignificant project.
Yeah.
It really is, so.
So the next thing is the responsible use of town hall meeting room. I edited it by basically just making it very short.
Yep, I'm just having a quick look at what
Yeah.
you suggested. So I think I'm good with most of them, the only thing I'm gonna say is that I do think it would be smart to have a point person.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking about, like, the planning board's having a meeting here tomorrow night, right?
Mhm.
It's not a big deal for one person in the planning board, whether it's Tom or Laura, who are the co-chairs, to just take point on that. Because then if there is a problem, we know exactly who to go to.
Yes.
And I think that should stay in.
Yeah.
Because I think having a point person means that when there is a need for communication, there's no question who the communication goes to. I mean,
Yeah.
you
I know, I can see, I deleted it because I thought, usually the chair of a board or something
But
like that.
sometimes you don't know.
I can understand why we might want to be very clear. So what if, Melissa, you have it with you, Melissa?
Yep.
What if we keep the last two sentences of the second paragraph?
Okay.
Could you please spell out town administrator, just for extra clarity? And then with those changes and the changes I made, I would move that we approve this memo regarding responsible use of the town hall meeting room.
Second, sorry.
Is there any-
I was still reading.
I know that- yeah.
Revisiting.
Is there any other discussion? Did any public have comments on this? Okay, we'll call a vote to approve this memo.
Yes.
Susan votes yes, Justin votes yes, and the motion carries.
Since I know Michelle has something she wants to talk to us about, and since she's here, do we wanna bump that up on the?
Yeah. Okay, Michelle, are you here regarding
Oh,
something
yes,
specific?
I'm just engaged in forensic bookkeeping while you guys are solving the problems of the world, and I thank you for your attention to these details. It's more power to you. Anyway, I won't take up too much of
So,
your
I
time.
mean,
I just wanted,
is there an item that,
I wanted to make sure you got the letter that I sent to you all, and hope that, I think I'm empowered by the finance committee to suggest that we set a meeting time that's convenient for everybody to kind of, we want to just show you the work that we've been doing um, with Melissa, thank goodness. And Frank has been really in charge of producing these spreadsheets with her. So we just thought we'd keep you informed as we go along in developing this kind of new approach to the capital planning situation.
yeah, I think that's great. I am kind of, are you still meeting on Tuesday evenings regularly?
Yes, that's our set meeting time, and unfortunately, we won't be meeting um, for the first 2 weeks in November because of the primary and Frank is out of town. So
Okay,
we have what is it, 2 more meetings.
Are you thinking the 18th or the 25th, Michelle?
Well, the 18th,
Or joint meeting, I'm assuming.
I would say the 18th would be my choice, and we can do it on at your convenience. You know, if you want to do it at
That works
5
for
or
you?
if you want to do it at 4. Um,
five is great for me.
okay,
We'd have to check with Scott
okay,
if he can come or is able to come. But if
okay,
Scott can come,
5 on Tuesday works for me also, if it's good with Scott.
I'm afraid of meeting without Scott because the last time we met about the capital plan, he wasn't involved.
uh,
So it'd be good to catch him up to speed.
well, why don't we
So
just go ahead and
maybe,
set that meeting and leave it up to him to say that he needs to change the date, and we're all open to that too. Or maybe I should
okay,
suggest 5 o'clock on Tuesday or 5 o'clock on Wednesday the next day.
No,
I know
please
that,
not Wednesday.
okay, all right, I
Please.
take it back. You didn't hear me say that. Okay, so let's set it for Tuesday at 5 o'clock next on the 18th.
okay, sounds like a plan. And just to discuss the capital plan?
Well, what we're coming up with is kind of a list, a comprehensive list of everything that would require funding of any sort. And then we've got a list of all the funding sources that are available. And then we have also composing a kind of grid where we can rate all the different things on this list for various different attributes, like we haven't come up with all of them yet, but we want to have like a rating system so that we can you know, see the whole picture, as I said in my letter. So,
Okay,
it may be a grand experiment, but I think it's worth a try.
all right, great. Well, we'll see you Tuesday, schedule dependent, Tuesday at 5 p.m.
Yep,
And,
that's great. Thank you very much.
And Michelle, I just wanna tell you, I love that you guys are working on funding sources and all this, just like having all that information, collating it in one place and being thorough, it's
You're gonna
awesome.
love it. It's a
Great
spreadsheet.
project, and thank you. I
We
just
all love
like,
a
I
spreadsheet.
love data, and I love the thoughtful analysis, and I appreciate your embarking on it.
Well, I'll pass that on to Frank, especially because he's the one that's been working on it the most. Anyway,
all right,
good night
see
and
you
good
then.
luck.
Thank you. Um, So that's kind of unanticipated search scheduling. Alright, we will move on to new business at 6:20 PM. Moving along quickly here, after meeting and old business. And
Okay.
so the first thing is the Winter Recovery Assistance Program reimbursement request, which is for a total amount of,
91,863.12. Crack ceiling and flat ceiling, flex jobs.
I love the concept of fog ceiling.
I don't know, I wanna see how it's done, because it actually is a fog.
I think that's like, does it seals the road against fog? I don't know, fog ceiling.
I wonder if fog
You know, what if it's an acronym for
is
something?
yeah, I don't know. So this, oh, okay,
Those are just all those.
alright, so then if we, now we have 90, we've expended 119, so we still have 40.
Yeah.
And there's a plan for it.
More prepared to answer.
Okay.
Yes, I do know Jim.
I thought you thought that everything was.
Every penny I can.
Okay, I will move that we approve this reimbursement request for the Winter Recovery Assistance Program in the amount of $91,863.12.
Second?
Is there any discussion or public comment? All right, we'll call a vote. Susan,
Yes.
Justin, yes, and the motion carries. And we wanna sign here?
Yep.
Do we even need to put who we are?
I'm kind of growing to hate blank screens. I get why, I mean, I've done it myself, but I really prefer actually having someone's face there. Do I have to send it? Oh, yes.
So, yeah, I think Jim did say he had a plan. Fog ceiling, crack ceiling, line painting.
And he has to June 30th to spend it.
So we could even recover after next year's winter.
Or this year's winter, depending on how you look at it. The coming winter, how about that?
Yeah.
The winter that approaches.
Um,
Okay. Are we doing?
so the officer schedule, so the 2 full-time officer positions.
I have an ad there, if you guys can just sign off on it, it's been signed off by, the chief and the sergeant.
So it'll go for almost a month before you start the interviews.
Yeah. So if you
How
agree-
many internal applicants are we likely to have?
I believe 2 at least, possibly 3.
Okay. I thought there were 2, but I wasn't sure if there were more.
So the interviews,
When will the new chief be appointed? Because you said interviews to be done by the newly appointed chief,
Yes.
but I didn't think the newly appointed chief started until January either. Or, I could be wrong about that.
Yes, so I guess that's making assumptions, we hope to have the newly appointed chief there, at these, but, we'll be making we're doing the interviews next week for the chief interviews, make our recommendations to you, and hopefully have you interview the following week with an appointment made.
That would fit. But how does it work with Garrett's retirement? And are they lapping or how's that gonna work?
I guess it depends on who the candidate chosen is.
That is true. So, but even if they were appointed, they might not actually start in that role except for the interviews until Garrett's retirement?
Right.
Okay. That's
so
all I was trying to figure out, was the logistics of that.
speaking of logistics, when we interview, we can go into an executive session, we can't?
Yeah, I think not, cause it's not, it's just, an open interview.
I thought there were, I'm wrong, but I thought there was some provision where you could interview and you go into executive session, but you just had to ask kind of the same questions or something, but I could just be wrong. Because, oh,
We did the lawyer interviews in open session, didn't we?
well, we can do them in open session, we interviewed Lori in open
Right,
session.
yeah.
partly I thought that we could interview her in executive session without, just off the cuff, I thought we
So
could.
you can consider or interview applicants for employment by a preliminary screening committee. If the chair declares that an open meeting will have a detrimental effect in obtaining qualified applicants, this shall not apply to any meeting regarding applicants who have passed a prior preliminary screening.
So we can't really for this circumstance. Not that I necessarily thought that we should, but I just curious.
Yeah, I think we should be open, I don't see why not. I think it will, if anything, I think it would provide more community security, given that. I mean, maybe no one will turn up, but if they did, like, I might wanna hear the interviews for the people police.
Yeah. No, I think it's a good thing, I forgot the part where it's only for preliminary interviews.
And I was also thinking that, I think we should be thoughtful about making sure to do, reference calls assiduously for the chief particularly, but also, I mean, for any external applicant that we don't already have some information about. I think it's particularly important for this type of role. And I know that we have been sometimes and not others, but I think this is one where we need to really be thorough.
Alright, well, if there's general consensus, we will go along with the officer hiring schedule as follows: advertised beginning 10/19/22, interviews on November 16th, make recommendations to the select board on November 17th. Select board interviews will be held by December 7th, appointments made by December 14th, and start date January 1. The initial interviews will be done by the newly appointed chief, town administrator, and human resources director, and the help wanted ad, as long as there's general agreement.
Where does it go out for this? I mean, there must be some normal job posting place for police, I'm assuming, not just in a paper. Does the academy have a place where they post stuff, or?
I will check.
I mean, I don't, every industry is different, like if you wanna hire a chemist, you put it out, there's like 2 journals where every chemist looks.
I'm sure they have a list sort of like we do.
Exactly, I'm sure somebody knows, it's just not me.
So we will, and like Indeed, the normal ones.
Normal ones, yeah.
But I think there's probably more, like Indeed you'll hit some, but I would bet that if you hit a targeted thing that the police knows everybody posts on, you're gonna get a different set of hits. Maybe we don't want more hits, I don't know, but.
No, I think we do.
Oh, you never know,
You know, I mean,
like when they go to hire math, they go on math jobs to hire math applicants, for one job, they'll get 500 because everybody hits apply all, and they don't even read the job ad, so they think they're applying to like an M1 research institution, and you know, it's a little college. So sometimes more is not better, I'm just saying.
So, 4 is getting rid of remote meeting format for select board meetings. We will
Which is-
table that until next week, because that's Scott's item. 5 is request from building department to raise inspection, to backtrack 1 second, for 3B. We're in agreement with the posting and the schedule, okay.
And
We're in
thanks for
agreement.
that, you guys have been working hard on it, it's appreciated,
yeah, I'll have the job description next week, we're still finishing that up
Okay.
for the officer.
for the office.
Yeah.
Request, which reminds me before I forget, police chief job description, does it include harbor master and animal control officer?
It doesn't, but we do need to amend it, so I'll need to add it in there.
Yeah. And anything else you think of like that?
Do you have a way for him to be a harbor master? What does that actually involve? Don't we need a board to be a harbor master?
The park commission discusses it all the time. It is, I think there used to be a harbor master who lived on the lake and was out on the lake on a regular
It's
basis.
probably a dean once in a time, right?
But it's kinda like animal control officer, it defaults to the police chief in lieu of someone else, right? In some ways.
I just don't wanna answer, I'm not sure that it defaults.
Yeah.
It passes to, or it's taken up by? I mean, I don't,
The thing is, here's the thing is, the way that we have it set up now, the police chief is the harbor master and the animal control officer. So unless we intend on changing that, we expect the new police chief to be the animal control officer and harbor master, and that should be reflected in the job description.
Yep, okay, point.
If we want to change that, that's a discussion for a different time. I think animal control officer makes a lot of sense. I know Sergeant Brian Fahey was recently at animal control training class, right? So I think it makes a lot of sense given all the other
Yeah.
responsibilities, but,
That one I had no questions about, it was only harbor master because of, the lack of a vote.
so, we're gonna table for request from building department to raise inspection fees and payments to inspector. We are also going to table because we're waiting on a revised proposal from Don Tirico.
Yes.
Number 6, the state reached out and asked to fill out a 911 coordinator form, and we realized that we should really appoint Jim Hunt, who's the director of operations, to this role, because we haven't since he became director of operations. Speaking of, is there a director of operations job description, and should it include 911? If it doesn't, well, while we're reviewing them all, right?
Yeah, right,
And any
and if
other,
it comes up, that's the time to think of it, cause otherwise it's gonna fall through the cracks.
so I would move that we appoint Jim Hunt to the 911 coordinator position for an indefinite period.
Second,
There's a second, is there any discussion or public comment?
will that require any training, and is it available, and is he willing to do it?
Sean trained him before he left,
Okay,
and yes, he has been doing it.
All right.
Oversight of.
I guess that would be the case, but I still needed to hear it.
But, the police department's still in charge of the reverse 911 calls, right?
Correct.
Okay. Vote on the motion to appoint Jim Hunt.
Yes.
Susan's yes, Justin's yes, and the motion carries. Thank you, Jim, for all you do as Director of Operations. The last item which the agenda was amended to add is review early voting hours for state election. I'm gonna pull Terry in if she's available to figure this out.
Hello.
Alright, so Donna had said that we needed early voting hours for one weekend and we need them for two.
I think the confusion may have come because the missive from Donna was with regard to the primary. And the voting periods for the primary and the actual election are not the same.
Except
that
that
might have
she
been-
had said, this is what you have to, she had said, yeah, you messed up, here's what you have to do for the next election. I think she was just wrong.
Yeah,
I can
that's
double check.
entirely possible,
Um,
and I may be wrong. Anyway, I'm glad that it got sorted.
yeah,
Hopefully we will remember the lessons learned next time this rolls around. And I think we might also have to do early voting. I remember seeing something there for the town election in May.
Well, let's.
I know, one at a time, but I just wanna make sure that we don't end up at the 11th hour for that one too.
No,
so Donna said, I'm just curious because,
do you want the hours?
no, I'm just wanna talk. No, Donna said they must be for at least 4 hours during the weekend of October 29th or 30th. So, it happens. Alright,
Okay.
we messed up.
That's okay.
So, your proposal is for specifically the weekend hours is for Sunday, October 23rd, 8 to 12,
Yes,
and then Saturday, October 29th, 9 to 5.
yes.
which is 8 hours, but some of it is voter registration.
9 to 11 is voter registration, last day to register to vote.
Mhm.
9 to 11, and then 3 to 5, it's required. So I just thought I'd stay here from 9 to 5.
That's weird, why do they require 9 to 11 and 3 to 5?
Usually it's on like, an evening, like 7 to 9 on a Saturday night. It's just odd, it's what they require, so this time it's during the day.
I guess that's better? I don't know. Okay,
So they can register to vote and vote the same day.
okay.
Okay, so as far as what we need to do tonight,
Mhm.
we have the proposed hours in front of us. Is there any,
The only other question I was gonna ask is, so I spent some time looking back over the Votes Act missive that Galvin's office sent out to you that you forwarded to me, and it looks as though, technically speaking, it isn't even our call. Like, I think it's the clerk and the registrars that
Right.
set these, and we're just approving the hours, but it's not us that
Exactly.
normally sets it. So I don't think it was really our job to begin with.
Yeah.
And in fact, reading that, the only way we get involved in changing the early voting places, the 2 of the registrars recommend it, correct?
And
And we wanted it here anyway, so it's not relevant.
so that's.
Right, yeah.
That's
very convenient, they changed all the laws about voting when we had 3 elections in a few months.
Yeah, really convenient, and also convenient that, like, you know, we didn't really get clear directives on how we were supposed to proceed, but.
And we're
okay.
getting mixed information too,
Yeah.
because Donna very clearly said that the select board does all this stuff.
I think the bottom line here is no one's really clear what was supposed to
Yeah.
happen. I mean, it's hard to come up with it, maybe the elections office, but it doesn't seem like there's clarity for anybody else, so.
So do you want me to have early voting when I'm here the Wednesdays and Fridays?
Well, this proposed one, do you have the proposed one in front of you? Yeah, you have the
I do.
proposed one in front of you.
Yep.
You know, the email you sent us on 4 days ago?
Mhm.
If there's no opposition to that, we'll go with that schedule, right?
I don't see why not.
And then we just gotta make sure it ends up in all the places it's supposed to be,
Right.
end up. But, there's general consensus that we'll go with these hours.
Okay.
Okay. Do we wanna deal, I kind of was thinking we deal with registrars next,
That
week.
works for. Oh,
because I don't know, I don't fully understand
Okay.
it yet.
okay, but my
personally.
only question is there, I mean, I don't know what how rapidly we need to cope with it, and if it has to be soon, is there an action item that we would need to embark on this week so
Oh,
that
no.
we could have for a,
No, this
Okay.
is fine.
So,
okay,
yeah, so ideally, we have 2 members from each party. Now, one thing,
Mhm.
having been part of caucuses, having been part of the Republican caucus, do they make an exception where a town has like a very limited number?
Yeah.
I think
I was
we
gonna say,
have
did you read what I sent you today?
the Mass General Law.
only if the town is,
Just
this
from
is,
the
yeah,
elections division.
item 2, the second paragraph.
Yeah, this is why I wanna push off, cause I didn't
Yeah.
fully, I saw that email and I didn't get a chance to fully go over it. Do they make an exception?
Only if the town is unable to find voters registered in the political parties to be members of the board of registrars be comprised of voters registered as unenrolled or in a political designation, the select board is required to write to the chair of the local political committee requesting names of 3 enrolled members of such party resident in the town to consider for appointment. If the chair of the town committee has not submitted the list to the select board within 45 days after a notification by certified mail, the select board can make appointments without reference to such list. While this will allow for the appointment of registrars who are not registered in a political party, we recommend at least making an effort to find voters registered in parties to meet the spirit of the law.
Okay, I see this now, I didn't see, I glanced on the email, so. Alright, I mean, it makes sense, it's just that we don't have a lot of, there's not a lot of people in the Republican party in.
Or at least
registered
that show up to the caucus, how many registered Republicans are there, do you know?
There's a,
I think it's about 35.
mean,
Am I wrong?
There's not, but
There's not a ton.
Mari Maycook used to be the Republican registrar, maybe we could,
I mean,
That's
if there's
current.
35, there's 35, we could ask if anybody wants to serve, like, the worst that happens is they say no, right?
If they all say no, then I'll talk to Michelle in Boston.
If we ask every single one of them.
I know.
Yes,
Um,
hi, you're Republican, would you like to be a registrar? I mean,
Mhm.
it doesn't seem like the worst thing to do.
Alright, so we'll, like I said, I'm not fully read up on that issue.
Yeah, so do you wanna read,
Okay.
well,
Yeah.
let's study up on Michelle's advice and see what the deal is. Okay.
And we're shooting for, here's the other thing I get confused about, it says there's supposed to be 5 or 4?
Michelle said 4.
4, but
I
you're
put that
one
you're
of them.
one of them.
I'm one of them.
So we need 3 others,
Yes.
and so then we want 2 and 1?
Well, I'm unenrolled, so I can go I'm-
Either way.
Alright, so we need to find
We need
one
a Republican. Mhm.
Alright,
Surely one of the 35 must be willing to serve. It's not that weighty a job, really.
alright, we'll try and handle it next
Okay.
week.
Okay.
All set,
And then I emailed you the warrant.
yes, we'll
So
do that
just
next
look
week.
it over. I triple checked it, so.
Did we already mail out the word?
No, the
State-
warrant for the
State ballot.
state election
So the
Okay.
only
has to
question
be,
is
has
what,
to be posted by November 1st.
the only question is what district we're in.
The district thing is really confusing because the districts seem to vary by position,
Mhm.
but we are supposed to have that filled in for each position.
So I have it all,
Okay.
So I
Have it-
see first, 8th, Berkshire, Hampton, Franklin, and Hampshire, 3rd, that's confusing, but. okay.
and they've
It
checked,
is confusing.
they've checked it over. Will Rosenberry has checked it over.
Is that because, like, there's a certain district for our senator and a certain district for our representative, because there's more
Yes.
representatives than
And
senators?
exactly what's on the warrant is on the ballot, if you wanna check the ballot over.
Southern Berkshire.
And I have to put
Sorry, I'm trying
exactly,
to find you.
Yeah, the only thing I
The
would,
warrant,
the
okay.
only thing I would add is, for the school committee, I would write Southern Berkshire Regional School. Cause that's the full name, SBRSD. That's all.
I'll ask him, cause he said just put Southern
Southern
Berkshire.
Berkshire.
So I will ask.
Well, next time we do it might be different.
Good point.
Alright,
Alright,
thanks,
You're welcome.
sorry.
and you
that
said
we
by November
messed up.
1st?
That has to be posted, yes,
Posted by November, so if we
By the-
sign it next week, we're good.
by the constable, yeah.
Anything else? That you need to tell us?
We have 124 ballots in the mail. We got one back. So people are voting,
Or early ballots?
or early
Early
voting
ballots.
ballots.
Oh, would somebody who wanted to register to vote absentee still be able to get an absentee ballot?
Mhm.
Okay, what do they need to do?
Just fill out the form.
Just fill out the form,
Mhm.
okay. So I need to grab one from you for my daughter.
She already filled it out.
She already filled it out. I wasn't sure is that good for both elections?
She voted in the state primary,
Right,
like the
right.
one is, this one's for
Okay, so it's for the May.
November.
Okay, great, good,
So,
thank you.
you're welcome.
Alright, thank you.
You're welcome.
That does finish up new business, 6:43 PM, in case anyone's keeping track.
We are rocking.
Review mail and correspondence received or to be sent, we don't have anything under that. I do have a couple of items of unanticipated business
Okay,
to run by you, so we're not doing minutes, we already discussed that.
yep,
Melissa let me know that the clickers for the electronic voting for town meeting came in today.
woo, that's exciting.
If we bent over backwards, it's possible we might be able to put something together for Saturday, but my gut feeling was that let's be prepared to use them for the first time at annual town meeting.
Okay. It's pretty short, since it's like 2 days away.
Yes, I mean, Melissa was saying, there's a training and we need a laptop, and I don't think it's rocket science, but it's 2 days away.
Yeah,
Or
I
3
mean,
days away.
it would be nice to vet it at a small meeting, but I think we should give ourselves a little more time than 2
Well,
days.
the other thing, I don't think it would really help the master plan, public forums, but there's an off chance they might be able to test it out there, an off chance. I know
Next one, maybe.
The last planning board meeting I was at, they were using some software that you just log in on your phone
Phone,
and do it from there, so maybe they don't need the clickers, but maybe we could find some way to test it out in advance, but unless we hear otherwise, and we generally agree, we're not gonna make the push to use them on
Okay.
Saturday. The Jeremiah, did you see the email that I sent you?
No, when did you?
This afternoon,
Yeah,
just late this
if it's
afternoon?
within like an hour and a half of meeting, I'm usually doing something else.
So, it makes things a little bit interesting, unfortunately. So Jeremiah responded to Donna.
Yep.
And now there is an opposition brief that needs to be filed within by the end of this month.
Okay.
Jeremiah said he's willing to do it, but he obviously wants to get paid for it. The part is that Donna tends to agree strongly that we have a very good basis to try to negotiate down the bill. Because we were told staff might be billed at a sixth of the rate. We were estimated a high end of the range for quote, everything included, right? Of $4,000, and then it ended up being more than $9,000, I think, right?
And he gave us no heads up.
With no heads up. So Donna feels strongly that we have grounds to negotiate that bill down, but now we're presented with a changing landscape, which is that this opposition brief should be filed. There's a timeline on when it can be filed. She said she doesn't, I sent the email to you so you can look at it. But basically, there's no good choices here because we either need to hire Jeremiah. If we hire him to do the opposition brief, that doesn't mean we've given up on negotiating on the other bill, but we might try to set a very hard upper limit.
And he may be, like, if you don't pay someone for work they've done, they're gonna be a little less enthusiastic about going forward.
Well, except, so, I just saw this email late this afternoon and I called her quickly for a few minutes to try to get more of a sense, cause it seems like it's an impending deadline. We got a special town meeting on Saturday.
Right.
She said, basically, if we ask him to do it, it's his fiduciary responsibility as a lawyer to do the opposition brief for us. And we can negotiate the bill afterwards. I mean, I think that the consensus, at least between me and Donna, is there's really strong grounds to negotiate the bill down, that we're in really good standing. We got blindsided by a bill that was more than double the high end of the estimate that included everything. But what do we do at this point? We also are asking for money on Saturday.
Yep, so we gotta make a call
About
what we're gonna ask on the floor at least.
Well, the problem is what I would recommend that we do is we go back to Jeremiah and say we would like you to file this opposition brief because you're the one who's familiar with the case. We'll pay you $180 an hour. What's your upper limit? And then agree to an upper limit, whether it's 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. We won't necessarily have that by Saturday, and we won't certainly have agreed on it as a board to hire him for that rate.
So then we're gonna have to call another special town meeting just to approve that number? That's
Well,
awfully
yes and no,
awkward.
I mean, there is the finance committee, we can make a reserve fund transfer request from them, depending. I mean, I think we could go to them with a valid case and say, look, we didn't have enough money, so we went to special town meeting and we got this approved, but then this opposition brief came up afterwards. The other thing that may happen is if we negotiate the other bill down, maybe that covers the opposition brief. She is recommending that we don't, at this point, pay any of the bill.
And we don't even have an estimate of what the
No,
opposition brief was.
other than
When
that.
is it due?
When is it due?
The opposition brief.
Donna's quote said, must be answered by the end of the month.
That would be October, so
I
that's only 2
also
weeks.
quickly said, what
Weeks.
happens if we don't file the opposition brief? and she said it might not be bad because Hume did also end up appealing. So there's like these cross
Right,
appeals.
cross appeals, right.
There's a lot of information in what is already there. I don't understand the process
I mean, I'm
at
gonna
all.
assume the opposition brief would be our response to their filing. But I don't know that for sure.
Yes, I mean, I think, yeah. Jeremiah's letter, I don't know if it got forwarded to you. Sometimes those attachments get dropped off in weird ways.
I find it really odd that attachment, if you forward an email, a lot of times the attachment doesn't go with it, which is peculiar. I don't understand this new platform.
So Jeremiah's letter, I mean, it's hard to read because he said, we'll accept for the sake of argument that I might have given an estimate of 35 to 4, but it's recorded, right?
Right.
And so it's hard to read. Then he said, I certainly do not want to be doing further work on this matter without being paid. So we should discuss arrangements for your appearance. That's the board's desire. So, I don't know, it's really complicated. I guess what we could do is say, Jeremiah, we would like to hire you. We just need to know before we do an upper end of a limit, a hard limit on the upper end. And then figure out, and then, we're gonna.
This is a weird question, but, and I don't know who you asked this question of, but I've always had the impression it's very hard to actually set a clear limit on legal fees in court cases. Like, if you're having a meeting with a lawyer and you know it's gonna take an hour, you can set a limit on that. But and this is just my inexperience, can you actually set an upper, like, as much as I would like to, I'm asking if that's a realistic thing to do for a court appeal. I simply don't know, and maybe Donna can give us a better
This is what
picture.
she did speak to that.
Okay,
The most cost-effective approach, I think, this is her words, would be to attempt to get a commitment from Jeremiah to not charge over a firm amount such as $2,000 to do the opposition brief. But I leave that to you and other board members to decide. If he does not agree to a firm amount, then you either pay him whatever he charges or retain me and pay for me to get educated and draft a response. No good choices.
yeah, I was gonna say, I imagine that a new lawyer having to come up with fee isn't going to be normal.
It's also not, from speaking with her, I think it was for 5 minutes, it came up, I asked the question, what happens if we don't file an opposition brief? That's an option. I'm not saying it's a good
Right.
option.
But it is an option,
It is an
and what
option.
did she say?
She said it's hard to know, but that basically because it was appealed from both sides, it might not be a very bad thing that we don't file an opposition brief. I can't speak to it
I
any more than
know, I
that.
think I think that's difficult to predict, and given that, I mean, I have to say, even with all of the annoyance and the money and everything else, the reality of the split decision is very problematic for the town on a number of fronts. It's completely unenforceable. So essentially, without the appeal, the bottom line would be they have free reign to have an RV park, which is against our zoning laws, because they can claim that all the people in the 35-person RV park are there for religious reasons, and that's problematic. For a bunch of reasons, not the least of which is I don't think the road can handle that load, and it's not enforceable in the split decision. So I think that yeah, they appealed it too, and we could have just filed our response to that. But at the risk of in for a penny, in for a pound, I feel like not completing it doesn't make a lot of sense.
So how about this? What if we just go with her recommendation, which would be, at this point, Donna and Jeremiah are communicating about these things, but would be to attempt to get a commitment from Jeremiah to not charge over a firm amount such as, and I would think that we would just ask, we'll hire you for 180, what is the firm upper limit that we can set?
Right. At the very least, if he predicts it will go over that, I would like to hear about it.
Yeah.
Prior to him going over it.
Yeah. So, and then the question becomes, what do we do at special town meeting, because we probably, I mean, we won't have made a decision by Saturday, and
So
we may not even really have anything back from Jeremiah.
here's what I'm gonna say, and I know that, and you have expressed your reservation to ever, ask for more money than you're certain we will need. I have a reservation about calling endless special town meetings, or not having the money to pay for things that we're trying to proceed with, or believe we should proceed with. And maybe this is my inexperience, but I would tend to prefer to put the higher amount in there and not use it, and then put it back into the pool to, apply it to next year's taxes abatement, or whatever that's called, right? Than to need to have another special town meeting because we're short funds to meet a legal commitment that we proceeded on. So I would be inclined to ask for the upper range we think we're gonna need,
Which we don't know.
which we don't know, but we can maybe make some estimates. So if we put on there both the deductible we're gonna need for the other suit for the insurance company,
Mhm.
and, the full amount that we owe on Jeremiah's bill,
Mhm.
and I'm even gonna say, throw in Donna's $2,000 estimate.
But I mean, she just said that number.
Of
That's not-
course,
Yeah,
absolutely, we don't know that it's gonna be that much, but let's say, if it's more than that, we might have to do a reserve fund,
Yeah.
if we choose to go for it. If it's less than that, it's annoying that we've had to ask for the money to be transferred from free cash, but it's not like the money gets spent, right? It's sitting there in free cash. If it's sitting there in free cash, or sitting there in, the legal fees account, the litigation account, whatever the line item is,
it's just that if it were to, I know, it's a relatively small amount of money, but if it were to be used to lower the tax rate, we're talking either during this budget season, or it wouldn't be freed up again until next fall. So it's a whole year delay.
So here's the question, what do you think, if, as one of the taxpayers, would you rather have another town meeting to, we need to have another town meeting for $2,000, or would you rather we get it done at the one go, and if we don't use it, it goes back into the pool? I personally would rather not have the extra.
I'm inclined to not pay Jeremiah the full amount of the bill, for all the reasons stated.
I
You know,
just
in
don't
his
wanna
letter,
see,
he
I just
didn't-
don't wanna see us get into the position of being, and I see all of the arguments that you've made, and I agree with them. But I also see the other position of when people contract with you to do work, they expect to get paid. And if, this would now be the second time that we've said to a group of lawyers that we're not paying you past this amount, and I totally thought we had a good reason for the other situation. And I'm not sure we don't have here either, but I also see that someone who's worked for the town for years and did expend the work would expect to get paid for the work, right? So, yeah, I'd still like, and that letter, as far as I can see, doesn't give an accounting, he sort of says he didn't use his office staff for various reasons. I don't know if that's a valid.
No, I mean, I don't, the fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, he met with the select board in May and gave an upper end of an estimate for everything included. He said he charged for office staff, he did not. The bill ended up being huge, and anyways, so maybe we'll just figure it out on the floor town meeting,
Okay.
and,
I just would rather, I guess I'm more comfortable having a higher number in there and not using it, even though it would be deferred, than not having as much as we need to pursue what we may need to pursue.
no, I certainly
I
see
think
your
it's
point.
better to have a little extra than not enough,
I see your point, but for right now, what,
whether we pay that
Yeah.
amount or not.
so what should we do for right now? Should I ask Donna to follow her recommended course, which would be attempt to get a commitment from Jeremiah, with a firm
Yeah.
to not charge over,
I
or a
think
firm
so.
amount for the 180 hours?
Yeah,
Okay.
and as far as I can see, the letter that he gave, and I only got to glance at it briefly, basically just says his bill is what his bill is. There doesn't seem to be any,
Yeah, I mean, and Donna critiqued in this email a couple of the explanations he did have, but, I don't know.
so there's really two things. One, what would be the likely cap on the second part of the, what is it, response?
Yeah.
And the other is, well, can we cut the bill down?
Yeah, but for right now, the focus is gonna be on this,
What the cap would be.
and cause she said in her email too, once you we could consider, try and negotiate the initial bill after everything's kinda said and done. But for right now, let's focus on this opposition brief and see what we can figure out.
Sounds good. I just think we'll just need to be a little careful, because I don't want us to earn a bad reputation or burn any bridges. Neither do I want us to be taken advantage of,
Yeah.
right? So, where that middle ground is of neither being taken advantage of nor not honoring commitments, that's a bigger question, but I think it's something that has to be navigated carefully, because it's not, you don't wanna have that reputation.
But we have opposing commitments.
Yeah, we do.
One to the taxpayer and one to Jeremiah, and,
But it's a small community, and sometimes, you just have to think carefully about how to handle the opposing commitments, because all of the issues may be valid, but you don't wanna burn any bridges that you may regret in the future, and it is a small committee, which means everybody in the community will know, and not just people here, right? So it could affect people's willingness to work for you in the future.
alright, so I will proceed with Donna's route, and I guess we'll hear back from Jeremiah, we'll figure it out on the floor of the meeting, cause
Okay.
that's all we can do. And as far as what amount we're gonna ask for, but we did talk about, we know the deductible is gonna be 2,500 rather than 1,000, so we should up it by 15, unless there's crazy, unless I'm just so sour on the Jeremiah thing, but anyway,
I get it.
so are there comments and questions from the public?
Do we know who R and PJ are? I can't.
PJ
Pam
is Jen
Johnson.
Johnson and ours Rebecca Wolin.
Okay.
Alright,
Is that, I don't think I have anything else. Transfer station committee is meeting tomorrow, planning board meeting, the open meeting is tomorrow, are you coming to that?
I will try.
Yeah, I know, it's a lot, I'm hoping it's well attended, but I suspect it will be the same people again, but that.
Yeah, I
that is
didn't
what
make
it
it
is.
to, I've missed 2 now, right? 1 or 2.
There is an online.
They're happy to, pardon?
We will be able to online,
Which is great, it's gonna be in here, right?
it'll be here, yeah.
Why did they pick here instead of library? Cause it was the evening,
I don't know if there was a conflict, they're doing one here and one in the library.
this one's here,
I think the movie is there tomorrow, or is it tonight?
I don't know. I just hope we
was
can
tonight.
fit everybody in here, cause we had the library was full at the last one. I mean, there were people standing, cause all the chairs were occupied. I don't know if we're all gonna fit in here, but I'm sure we'll work it out and people will open the windows and snuggle or something, I don't really know. I mean, it's a big topic, and I understand why they put transportation in with housing, because they're in some ways related, but honestly, I think it's a much bigger, weightier topic than recreation and open space. And I'm not sure how we're gonna get through it in an hour and a half and have a substantive discussion about it, but we'll see.
Yeah. Motion to adjourn?
Second. Oh my God, wait, only an hour?
Yeah,
Are you sure we shouldn't sit here for another 55 minutes?
what's your vote?
Yes.
Yes, meeting adjourned at 7:04 PM. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.